Welcome back, everyone. This is your host, Mitch, presented by Notorious Pulls Radio. And for this week's episode, we are going over UFC 291, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje 2. They are running this one back in Utah, in Salt Lake City. So before we get into it, guys, if you are new to our show, please leave a like, follow, and subscribe on all social media platforms. And let's get right into it. So UFC 291 taking place on July 29th, Saturday night at 10 p.m. And the main event is for the BMF belt. We have obviously, Dustin, the Diamond Poirier, is going against, I don't want to say his arch nemesis, but these guys have met before in the past, and both of them are absolute warriors when it comes to the lightweight division. They have essentially terrorized the top five for as long as I can remember. These two have battled everyone in their division and essentially lost to the same people in their division. As you know, Dustin Poirier lost to Khabib, lost to Charles Oliveira. Justin Gaethje had the same exact fate with both opponents. So obviously, you know that Poirier actually beat Gaethje when he was very new into his UFC tenure. They fought way, way back in 2018, and Poirier stopped Gaethje by TKO. Obviously, Gaethje has been on a little win streak, picked up a really nice win over Rafael Faizev, his last outing. He did state to us that his career is coming closer. He's closer to the end, and essentially this will be his last run at a title shot. And I do believe that if he falls short against Poirier Saturday night, that this will be his last fight. I think this fight is going to make him or break him when it comes to his career. Both fighters have taken a lot of damage in their respective careers. Obviously, Poirier record 29-7, Gaethje 25-4. These guys are extreme veterans when it comes to the fight game. They have been with the best opposition in the world, and they're both very exciting fighters when it comes to the entertainment and the fight business. These guys love to box, very little wrestling, and I always love the way that Dustin Poirier flips the switch coming the later rounds. A lot of people, I'm telling you, are going to go into this fight and they're going to rule Dustin out, saying that this is not the same fight. This is not the same Poirier. That Gaethje's going to come in and he's going to dust him and he's going to come out on top. I truly believe both of these guys have lost, obviously, to the same people, but there's just something about Dustin when it comes to the boxing. I truly believe that he is going to pick apart Justin Gaethje on Saturday night. I think Gaethje is going to come out as he always does. Those first one or two rounds, he's going to be really sharp. His leg kicks are going to be really wicked. But Dustin Poirier is a resilient guy. And I've seen him take tons of damage. And once he touches you up, he is nonstop. He starts to pick you apart and he finishes you. He's obviously himself has been on a very good win streak personally, and he had good wins over Conor McGregor. He picked up two beautiful wins. He obviously had a great win against Dan Hooker, and obviously Michael Chandler at MSG. He put on an absolute clinic. Come Saturday night, guys, you're hearing it from me. I believe Dustin Poirier is going to be victorious. He's just been that guy. Forget the hot sauce. Forget, his other losses, him crying. I'm not saying that he'll be championship because obviously his kryptonite is anyone with extreme black belt jiu-jitsu or anyone from Dagestan. There is no way that this man would beat Islam Makhachev, and I don't even think that he can beat Alexander Volkanovski. But I do think he has enough grit and determination and skill to take out the highlight, and that's Justin Gaethje. Another really key matchup is this co-main event, which could have easily been a main event, and that's the former light heavyweight champion Jan Blachowicz versus the former middleweight champion Alex Pereira. So it's interesting because obviously Jan Blachowicz has beat Israel Adesanya when Israel Adesanya came up to light heavyweight to try to be essentially a double champ, which did not work out. It's a funny the way the UFC is doing this. So obviously Pereira lost his last fight to Adesanya by knockout, and a lot of people were saying that Pereira is too big for middleweight. It's hard for him to make weight, and that he is going to be much more, it's going to be a better, he's more natural at light heavyweight. The way I see it, yes, he is a giant middleweight, but I do believe that his power doesn't necessarily carry over to the light heavyweights as well. As you know, in Glory Kickboxing, when he moved up to light heavyweight, he had a win over the champion at that time, but when they did the rematch, his power didn't really translate how it did in the middleweight division. He might carry the size, but he doesn't necessarily carry as much power when he comes up in the light heavyweight division. And I believe Jan Blachowicz is going to give him a taste of that Polish power. I believe this is a big step up for Pereira for his first fight, to fight a guy like Blachowicz. But at the same time, it's very good for the fans because we saw that Israel Adesanya couldn't necessarily handle the power when it came to, bringing him to the ground. And it's much harder to knock out these light heavyweights. These guys are naturally bigger guys, cutting from possibly 240, 250 pounds. So for them making weight they're huge after they rehydrate the next day. And I believe Pereira is going to feel the Polish power, and Jan Blachowicz is going to knock him out and definitely get him on the ground and definitely make it a very ugly night for him. Even though Pereira's had a small MMA career at 7-2, I understand why he's taking such big risks. First of all, he's not getting any younger. The only thing he wants to see is gold. Any chance that he has of becoming a double champion in the UFC, holding two belts at different times, is by fighting a guy like Blachowicz. So I really respect Pereira. He's definitely got real balls on him. He's coming in hard, and it's a really exciting fight, and it's amazing that it's the co-main event. So, an amazing main event, obviously. The next fight I'm going to bring up is obviously a battle of the OG veterans, and this is one of my favorite eras, and that's going to be Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Obviously, El Cucuy was obviously at one point in the light heavyweight division. He was the hitman. He was the boogeyman. He was the guy you had to fight. That Dana was always saying, you'll fight one more time, you'll get your title shot one more time. Well, he did that 12 times in a row until the fight that never came to fruition was him versus Khabib. Something happened. Justin Gaethje stepped in, and he's been, after the loss to Justin Gaethje during COVID, which essentially saved, sports for everyone. Like, the UFC finally came back and gave us something on TV during the times where we had nothing absolutely to watch. Tony Ferguson came, and him and Gaethje put on an incredible performance. Obviously, after that, he's been on an immense downfall, taking losses to Oliveira, Dariush, obviously that wicked nasty knockout that Michael Chandler put on him, and obviously Nate Diaz. His opponent, Bobby Green. I like Bobby. I like this fight for Tony. It's a good fight. I'm going to enjoy it. I like Bobby's style. I think he is going to really give Tony a lot of trouble. He's really fast, sharp, and he's exciting. He's an exciting guy to watch. Unfortunately, he had that no contest with Jared Gordon, his last fight. with an unfortunate clash of heads. But he had a loss to Drew Dober. He felt a little bit of that power, put him to sleep. He obviously lost to Islam Makhachev, but I still give him a lot of credit for stepping up to even fight a guy like Makhachev, even though he essentially had no chance. And a few other wins he picked up prior. I still see Bobby Green kind of dancing around Tony Ferguson. I think Tony is not even in his prime, he's way past his prime. And he is possibly on, this is his last fight in his contract. After this, we might see Tony Ferguson retire, possibly a double retirement of Justin Gaethje, which most likely he is going to lose. And if this is what he's saying, this could be his last fight. And this could be Tony Ferguson's last fight also. And another fight that I want to mention, which is a good fight, is Michael Chiesa is fighting Kevin Holland. And I really like this fight because Chiesa was on kind of a little bit of a 4-fight win streak. And then they gave him Vicente Luque. Luque obviously beat him with a Darce choke, which was a really, really tough loss for him. I even saw after he got caught by that really frustrated him. He didn't want to go out getting choked out. He felt like his ground game was solidified. After that, they gave him the highly talented Sean Brady. So right now, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's obviously still a ranked welterweight, but I do believe right now he has to fight for his ranking. I believe a guy like Kevin Holland, who's essentially hovering the top 15 after picking up a win over Santiago Ponzinibbio by knockout. A win over Chiesa probably makes him at least ranked in the top 15 in the welterweight division. Obviously, Holland, not the smartest fighter, but he's a very brave guy. I love how, he'll fight anybody. He obviously had a really tough loss to Wonder Boy, where the corner had to stop and he took a shitload of damage. He obviously got choked out by Chimaev, which was like very crazy how that whole entire card got scrambled and somehow Chimaev ends up fighting Holland at the end of it instead of Nate Diaz. So that was crazy. And obviously, Chimaev ragdolled him, choked him out. It was a quick and easy fight. And his other 2 welterweight fights didn't really matter. It was just welcoming him into the division. Obviously, he was too small to be a middleweight. I do see this fight where me giving the nod to Kevin Holland because I just think Chiesa's on a really bad head. I think Kevin Holland is very lanky and he has good striking. And I do believe he's going to take Michael Chiesa that night on Saturday. Whether it's probably going to be in the second round, I see him getting to the ground and just finishing possibly with an elbow, ground and pound, just kind of like getting in Chiesa's head. Like Kevin Holland, he kind of like dogs down all his opponents, talks to them. It's a lot of mental warfare. I feel like when you're fighting with him, I think that's why Chimaev just attacked him, took him out. He didn't even want to hear him talk for long. He's like, let me just put this guy out. I don't want to hear Big Mouth speak ever again. So that's going to be another key fight to watch. Guys, if you really love enjoying and watching all of our episodes, remember the best way to support us is to subscribe to us on YouTube. We have a ton of merchandise that is going to be coming out in the coming weeks and months. So keep your eyes peeled on Notorious Pulls for some of the best merchandise. Guys, this is your host, Mitch, with Notorious Pulls Radio, and we'll see you soon.